And I probably shouldn't admit this, but I've never watched The Little Mermaid, the Disney one. So for me, it's like she's dying or she's turning into air, or, you know, her sisters come and give her a dagger, and if she kills the prince, then she can be a mermaid again. It's not a talking crab and everything else. We're talking about using myths in your writing today because I've written Skin of the Sea, a story about Simideli, a black mermaid who gathers the souls of those who pass in the sea to return them home. The story is based on West African mermaids and the origins of them that began in the Ifa spiritual belief system and spread across the transatlantic due to the slave trade. So Skin of the Sea is influenced by The Little Mermaid, but I think it is and it isn't. So I think it's influenced, but it's not completely a retelling. In The Little Mermaid, you know, she sacrifices a lot for the prince that she saves, and I think in Skin of the Sea, although it's influenced by that, because I love The Little Mermaid growing up, this story is different in the fact that she's not sacrificing anything for the person that she saves, in terms of she's not giving up her tail wholly for a boy. It's a bigger sacrifice. I think retellings often have a different spin on them so that they reflect how we are today. So I know that traditional fairy tales were originally to warn and make sure that children, you know, were safe, and Little Red Riding Hood, you don't go into the forest, and it was. But then obviously it's been retold through the years and it's become a more not as scary story. You're always going to get a mixture of stories. It doesn't mean that one is more valid than the other. It just means that that's the way that you want to tell it. I went to the Norfolk coast and saw loads of seals there, and I was reminded of a story of selkies, that are seals who are supposed to transform into women under the light of the moon, and it just seemed so crazy and magical. I wanted to write a story similar to that, but one where I saw myself in it. I'd heard of Mamiwata before, but I hadn't really dug in as deep as I did. Finding images of them blew my mind. To see mermaids that look like me and to find out about their African origins was such an inspiration. I spoke to an Ifa priest who was able to tell me more about Umoja. She was believed to follow the first enslaved Africans across the Atlantic to offer them comfort on the ships. Some think that she wrecked the ships, and some say that she took the souls of those who passed in the sea home. And it was that last bit that really began to form the plot of Skin of the Sea. What really helps is to get a rounded view of that story. So for me, for mermaids, it was, okay, black mermaids, but what about other cultures' versions of mermaids? Looking at the mermaids in Northern Australia and in Haiti and Brazil, especially the ones in Brazil and Haiti that are kind of variations of Umoja as well, just kind of gave me more of a depth to how and what I wanted to write. In the Caribbean, they believe that they worship Shango on some islands because they believe that he wrecked the slave ships. And those beliefs are prevalent probably more in the Americas and the Caribbean because of what happened. So it's taking that original myth of Umoja and mixing it with how it evolved because of history. I think that there's always different variations as well of myths, and I think it's important to show respect, but also recognize that there's always going to be a different version. So someone might speak to you about a story, your aunt might tell you one story and your grandma might tell you a completely different story, but it's the same theme, but they've heard it in different ways. I think when you're combining myths and even when you're researching them, one of the important things to do is to make sure that you are not being disrespectful in any way. So for example, a lot of West African spirituality was demonized by the West to basically dehumanize them so it was okay to enslave them. Eshu is an Orisha who is a trickster, but he's often portrayed as the devil by the West, which is completely wrong. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't disrespecting anyone's spiritual beliefs, because there are still millions of followers of the Ifa spiritual belief system. I think even if it's your own religion or your own culture, you might want to just double check with elders and other people that you're not, writing anything that's going to offend anyone. I think there's small things that are down to you creatively, and there are big things that are like a big no. So for example, I wouldn't portray Eshu as the devil because it's a big no-no. I think with Skin of the Sea, I literally wrote the story that I wanted to read. And so it is very detailed because that's the way I like my writing, descriptive. I like fast pace. I like there to be a lot of action and strong characters. And I think that's definitely the tip that I would give for writing in general, but definitely this. The most important thing is to write the story that you would want to read without worrying too much, apart from different things that you have to respect, without worrying too much if that person's going to like reading it or this person's going to like reading it. If you like it, then you should write it.
Imagine like you go back to the original myth and it's like, so there is this Jamaican crab who's just there for some reason. He loves to sing. It's a whole thing. Don't worry about it.
It's not doing it for me. Give me a dagger anytime.
Really,
Thanks for watching, and leave a comment about any myths that have inspired your writing, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.